Hello, it's the Chronicles of a Gooner. It's the preview show. We're back. My throat is an absolute mess, so apologies for the croaky voice, but the show must go on. Hello, good morning, and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, brought to you by the last man standing with loserpool.com. This is our preview show where we'll be looking ahead to Arsenal's game against Aston Villa, which is at the moment, at the time of recording, 2 days, 5 hours, 4 minutes away. So it's fast approaching. Arsenal, of course, had a disappointing outing in the Premier League last week. 2-goal lead surrendered up at Vicarage Road, but we're back in Premier League action this weekend, and we'll be looking to, of course, put that right. Now, I want to share some statistics with you guys. Apologies, like I said right at the beginning, my throat is absolutely wrecked. I've taken all the throat sweets under the sun. I've had teas with honey in them. I've had all sorts of things. I've taken all these sorts of tablets, but my throat is a mess. So I apologize for the croaky voice. But yeah, anyway, the show must go on, as they say. So we're going to look ahead to the game. I'm going to be talking to you about some statistics between the two clubs, some issues that I see sort of arising and what I would do about them, and I'll be looking at my starting 11, and I want to hear from you guys in the comments section too, in regards to your picks as well and what you think about mine. Now, last night we did the Eintracht Frankfurt review. Thank you to everybody who's tuned into that, who's been on it so far. We've been trying to get the audio up on SoundCloud so that it feeds through to iTunes, Spotify, Acast, all the usual places, but we've had some issues this morning. I'm told by SoundCloud that it's a problem at their end. So we're holding tight on that, and hopefully we can bring you the audio versions of these podcasts ASAP. I know a lot of people prefer to listen to the audio whilst they're on the move, which is absolutely fair enough. So I'm trying to resolve that as soon as possible. Right, let's have a look at some of these statistics. So as I said, 2 days, 5 hours, now 2 minutes until this game kicks off. It's a 4:30 at the Emirates Stadium. And if you look at the head-to-head between the two clubs, this is in the Premier League era. There have been 48 games played. Arsenal have won 26, whilst Aston Villa have won just 8. And there's been 14 draws between the two sides. Arsenal have won 14 of their 26 at home and 12 on the road. Aston Villa, surprisingly, have won less at home and more on the road. They've won at the Arsenal 5 times. They've only won at Villa Park 3 times. So that makes interesting reading ahead of this one. I can think of a couple of disappointing defeats at the hands of Aston Villa in the last few years, actually. I remember that one on the opening day of the season. Disastrous start. I remember I was in Egypt that weekend and I was watching it out there. Long story short, went to a bar. They were closed, weren't opening until half time. And I basically convinced the guy to let me in and watch the game. If you look at the recent meetings, here we go. Arsenal's last meeting with Aston Villa was a 4-0 win on Sunday, the 15th of May at the Emirates Stadium. We also won at Villa Park that season. Villa, of course, have been out of the Premier League for a little while following their relegation. Arsenal 5, Aston Villa 0 was on Sunday, the 1st of Feb. And Arsenal 3-0 at Villa Park in September. And prior to that, Arsenal were winners again on the road, January 2014. So of the last 5, Arsenal have won every single one. If you look at the form guide, though, based on this season, Arsenal's form has been up and down, hasn't it? Away win at Newcastle, home win against Burnley, defeat, of course, at Anfield, and then 2 draws against Spurs and Watford. From Aston Villa's point of view, newly promoted side, it was always going to be difficult for them. Lost at Spurs, as you'd expect. Probably disappointed to be beaten at home by Bournemouth, but they then beat Everton at home. Everton, who have had lots of troubles on the road. They lost away to Crystal Palace and they drew away with West Ham. That was the Monday Night Football last week. Season so far, Arsenal sit in 7th, having won 2, drawn 2, lost 1. Villa sit in 17th, having won 1, drawn 1 and lost 3. average goals scored per match, Arsenal's is 1.6, which is not that high, considering the firepower that Arsenal have. A little bit disappointing. Villa's is 0.8. Average goals conceded, Arsenal's is 1.6, Villa's is 1.2. So Aston Villa are conceding on average less goals than us. Clean sheets, Villa have had 2 so far in comparison to Arsenal's 1. And Arsenal create only slightly more chances than Villa on average this season so far, 1.6 compared to their 1.4. In terms of top player statistics, now this is, of course, between the players involved in this fixture. In terms of the goals, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang leads the way. He's got 5. Alexander Lacazette in second with 2. Anwar El Ghazi has got 1 for Villa. In terms of assists, Dani Ceballos has 2, Ainsley Maitland-Niles has 2, and Jack Grealish, who many would say is Villa's star man, has 1. Passes, Granit Xhaka has completed the most, 287, closely followed by Matteo Guendouzi on 285 and Socrates with 253. I'm sure they haven't counted that pass at Watford as one of those. In terms of tackles, John McGinn of Aston Villa, a player who's really, really impressed so far, has got 20, Ainsley Maitland-Niles on 12, and Jack Grealish on 10. So those are the statistics in regards to this one. Looking forward to the game, of course. It's a home fixture that I expect Arsenal to win. But there are lots of question marks over the starting lineup, given the way things have gone of late, and given the game in Frankfurt last night, because that will change things, won't it? Some players managed to put themselves, I'm sure, into Unai Emery's thoughts, so we'll have to see what he goes with. I'm going to tell you what I would go with and explain why as well in this preview show. Let's go over to some of your live comments. A big hello to everybody watching live at the minute, and a big hello to those of you watching or listening back later on. Also, Ishmael Alexander Rose Thompson. It's a long name. He says 10 points to Gryffindor, Harry, for all the work that goes into the videos. Keep it up. Thank you very much, mate. Glad you're enjoying them. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's for you guys to enjoy. If you haven't already, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Please do. That really does help. Let's switch over to the lineup builder, and I'm going to give you guys what my lineup would be. So I've gone with a 4-1-2-2-1. I guess it's more like a 4-3-3. With a few little slight changes. I think that in terms of the goalkeeper, I thought that Emiliano Martinez was fantastic last night in Frankfurt. I really do. I think he was brilliant. I think he looked really assured. I've spoken about that on last night's review show. But for me, Bernd Leno is Arsenal's number 1. And, for me, whilst Martinez had a good game, he's going to have to do a lot more than just, one good performance before he's going to dislodge Bernd Leno. I don't think Bernd Leno's done a great deal wrong. Certainly can't blame him for dropping the points at Watford. You could argue he made a mistake in the North London derby. Well, it was a mistake, but that happens once in a while, doesn't it? And with a goalkeeper, mistakes get highlighted because more often than not, if you make a mistake in that position, you're going to concede a goal. Now, in terms of the right back position, Callum Chambers came in there last night, and I thought at times he looked really shoddy defensively. And it's partly because the team were a shambles in terms of the setup. I didn't think he got anywhere near enough protection from Emile Smith-Rowe or the midfielders sort of in the centre. I didn't think they were coming over and cleaning up enough. We know Emery asks his fullbacks to get forward, and Chambers did that on occasions. But for me, Chambers is just not a right back. So I'm going to leave him out. And I'm going to go with Ainsley Maitland-Niles in at right back. I think most people would, if I'm honest. But let me know, of course, your thoughts at left back. There is no real other option at the moment, is there? With Kieran Tierney out injured, and of course Nacho Monreal having been sold. Nacho Monreal, who scored his first goal, by the way, for Real Sociedad the other day at the Anoeta against Atletico Madrid. Yeah, Kolasinac is the only option at right back. Let's have a look at the centre backs. Now, this is where I think Unai Emery's got a decision to make. I think David Luiz will play, so I'm going to put him in there. Somebody's going to tell me I should put them the other way around, that David Luiz should be the left-sided one, so I'm going to do that just to stop those comments. So David Luiz at centre-back. Now, the decision comes now because Socrates was rested against Frankfurt, and it suggests that he's probably going to walk straight back in the team. Rob Holding has returned to fitness, but he isn't match fit. I thought he may have played a part last night, but that says to me that he's not ready yet to join in with the first team in terms of game time. And I agree with that. He's been out for a long, long time. It's very difficult to throw someone in. And of course, you want to manage the recovery. We all talk about how important Rob Holding is to this team. Well, then you need to manage his recovery well, and you need to make sure that, he gets back to fitness without any sort of bumps in the road. So I'm going to go with Sokratis. I think that he will bring Sokratis straight back in. There are lots of question marks about him. From the day he joined Arsenal, I was not convinced about Sokratis. I thought he brought something to the team that maybe we didn't have before in terms of that bit of steel. But in terms of his quality, his ability, and his actual defending, a lot of the time, it's not good enough. I thought Mustafi did really well out in Frankfurt, as well as you can say for a defender, given how many chances we conceded. But because he played the full 90 minutes, I think that Unai Emery will stick with Sokratis. And I think the fact that he left Sokratis behind suggests that he was in his plans for Sunday's game. In terms of the midfield, let's move forward. I'm going to go with Granit Xhaka, the Arsenal captain at the moment. Not everybody's flavour of the month, but for me, he needs to be in that team. Now, one of the things that really disappointed me out in Frankfurt was the fact, and against, I guess, against Spurs actually, was that Lucas Torreira seems to keep venturing forward and making these runs and doing this sort of thing, just drifting into these positions and trying to join in the attacks. For me, that's not what I want to see from Lucas Torreira. If Lucas Torreira is going to be in the side, I want him sitting alongside Granit Xhaka like this to protect that back four. I think in order to protect that back four, you need to have two players holding. And because our right back, likes to get up and down the field, as does our left back, we know you need those two players. And I don't think that we've done that well enough. And we saw it at times last night. We saw Torreira keep pressing on and leaving Xhaka isolated. And it was almost like a 4-1-4-1 formation last night, which I didn't really think worked. So I'm not going to put Lucas Torreira in there. I'm actually going to put Matteo Guendouzi in there because I thought he did really well against Spurs. I didn't think he was good against Watford, if I'm honest, but I thought a lot of that was to do with the way we were trying to play out. And I don't want to see Guendouzi drop into the edge of his box to receive the ball. And we keep talking about that goal that we conceded from playing out from the back. If Sokratis makes that pass to Guendouzi, then what does he do with it after that? He's got four players around him. It makes no sense. But I'm going to give Guendouzi the nod because he didn't play last night. And I think that, again, that will be Unai Emery's idea, and that will be probably why he never got a game. Now, Joe Willock had a good game last night, but he looked absolutely knackered by the end of it. So I don't expect him to start the game on Sunday. I really don't. I think that Joe Willock will be left out, rightly or wrongly. I don't know, but that's just my personal opinion. And I probably wouldn't start him given the way, he looked absolutely knackered and shattered at the end of that game last night, which is fair enough. I'm going to go with Dani Ceballos ahead of those two. That's going to be my selection there. Now, in the centre forward position, there's no argument here at the moment. He's our only natural centre forward at the minute, and he's our only player who consistently delivers. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has been brilliant in terms of his goal scoring outputs. He's carried on from last season, picked up where he's left off. So brilliant stuff. I want to see Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in there, and I expect to see him in there. Now, on the right-hand side, I expect Nicola Pepe to start. He really needs a goal, doesn't he? He looks like a player whose confidence is a little bit shot at the moment. So I'd like to see him get on the score sheet. Game against Villa at home provides the perfect opportunity, I guess. And then the other position is the one that's up for grabs. It's this one here on the left-hand side. Now, lots of people will tell you Bukayo Saka should start after that performance. Bukayo Saka, for me, is a real promising prospect, and I want to see him give him more chances. But perhaps in the cup competitions, in the Europa League, I think that would be his level at this moment in time. Now, I was surprised against Watford that Unai Emery went with this sort of diamond formation and played Mesut Ozil instead of Reece Nelson. It looks like he's, not got sort of the best relationship with Reece Nelson. He's had opportunities to play him. He started the season off and then he's sort of gone to the wayside. I want to see Ozil in here. I really do. But I also want to see Arsenal stick to this formation. The fear is that when Ozil plays is that you might end up with something more like this. You might see the players shift like that, and Mesut Ozil playing here, and then Pepe going up and joining Aubameyang up front. And I don't want to see that. I really don't. I think that, when you're looking to break down a team like Aston Villa, who are no doubt going to come to the Emirates and defend, you're making it hard for yourself like that. You're going to then ask these guys to get up and down the pitch and support, but then you're leaving us, I think, susceptible to those counter attacks. So I want to see some width. I want to see Pepe operating from that right-hand side where he likes to operate. I want to see him pulling right out onto the touchline here and receiving the ball where he can drive in on his left foot. I want to see Ozil from the left when we're defending, I suppose. But I want to see him have that free role and be able to go across that midfield and pop up wherever there is space to try and make things happen for the Gunners. And if that means that at times Ceballos needs to tuck in here when Arsenal are without possession, then so be it. But that's kind of what I'd go with in terms of system, in terms of personnel. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. I can't guarantee that this is what Unai Emery will go with because we know he likes to chop and change stuff. But yeah, that's what I'd go with at this moment in time. Let me know in the comments what you would do. I'm going to come over to some of your live comments now. Sup, Harry, keep up the good work. Thank you very much, mate. And thank you for tuning in. Marble Halls TV says, I dropped Lewis and played Chambers and Socrates. Marble Halls also says Torreira, Ceballos and Guendouzi in midfield. Lots of people don't want to see Granit Xhaka in the side, but I think he'll play, and I would pick him as well. Glenn says, good morning, Harry. I have 15 minutes before I have to bring the wife to the train station. I hope this lineup is what you want to see and not what Unai Emery might do. Again, Glenn, it is what I want to see, but you have to take into account a little bit what you think Unai Emery will do, because otherwise, it's not going to be accurate, and I want to be accurate. And last week we got a player wrong, one player, but that was because we didn't know Lacazette was going to be out. So I'm trying to understand what Unai Emery is going to do, and I think that this would work. I'd like to see this. I've got question marks over whether Ozil will start, given that maybe he was unfit. I don't know what the issue was this week, that he was rested. I don't really buy that. But anyway, that's what I would go with in answer to your question. So let me know, of course, what you guys think in the comments section below. Tony Flowers says, Galimera, Harry, which means good morning in Greek. How you doing, Tony? Welcome back to the stream. What else have we got here? Darren Watson says, I agree. In any game that Xhaka plays in, he requires a player beside him as part of a double pivot. Agreed. I think that's essential to not only the team, but to Granit Xhaka personally as well. So fingers crossed we see that. Some may say it's negative at home. I don't think it is. If it allows you to get the ball under control and gives more freedom to that three in front so that they can go on and support Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, then I think it's not negative at all. I think it's the right thing to do. Carlito says that 6 goals in 6 games for Oba. He's carrying us right now. Agreed. Can't deny that. Carlito says, one thing I knew about Chambers, he's not a right back. It definitely isn't, based on how we saw him perform out in Frankfurt. And not admittedly, though, it wasn't all his fault. There were problems in the way the team were defending as a whole, which further exposed him, I think. But yeah, definitely not a right back for me. Let's see what else we've got. The more I look at our midfield, the more I think we need a player like Sangare. That's from Darren Watson. Tony Flower says, good man, thanks. Can you do a mock-up of how you would play a 4-4-2 and who you would use? Assuming you're saying with with Lacazette out, if it was, of course, with Lacazette out, you got to play Pepe up there, I suppose. With Aubameyang like this, it's really hard to do a 4-4-2. Ceballos plays from a wide position for Spain, so you could see that. But then I feel like we don't really have the wide personnel to do that. Would you play Reece Nelson there? Maybe. But will he get back and defend? It feels like the wingers we've got, the Pepes, the Nelsons, the Sakas, they're very forward-thinking wingers. They're forwards, essentially. I think the days of a right and left midfielder are pretty much gone, to be honest. You don't see many of those anymore. But yeah, I wouldn't play a 4-4-2 just because I don't think the personnel is right. Like I said, this is what I'd go for. But it's an interesting point, and I think when Lacazette returns, that's something that you could potentially look at. What else have we got here? Tony says, use Lacazette, man. I will do another one with Lacazette on another day, and I'll go into it in a lot more detail just because we're running short of time. Hello to Rinat. And Max Barber says, it's got to be a 4-2-3-1. Manager needs to play what he's comfortable with. Guess so. All great points, all interesting points. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you haven't listened to our Eintracht Frankfurt review, it is available now. Please do go and check that out. And also check out the fans phone in from the other night. Keep voting for your favorite caller. They will be receiving a free t-shirt, whoever wins that vote. The vote is still ongoing, so we're going to keep it going for another couple of days. And a great question's come through, so I'm going to touch on that before we leave the stream. Dan Potts, morning Harry. Question starting to be asked of Emery, but is he involving himself in a Sarri and Kante situation here with Torreira? I touched on it a little bit earlier on in the stream about the fact that Torreira keeps making those runs forward. There's no question in my mind that that's an instruction from Unai Emery. Whether it works or not is another thing. Torreira's spoken in the past about the fact that he wants to get further forward. In Italy at Sampdoria, didn't really have that freedom. They were a lot more rigid tactically. I think that he's in danger of ruining a few players. And when I say ruining, I don't mean like, spoiling their careers or, causing harm on them. What I mean is there's a few players in that team who are being asked to do things that just are so unnatural to them. And that will, of course, affect performances, which will affect the fans' opinion of them. And I think that's a little bit unfair. So I think that's something that Unai Emery has to be careful of. You either play to your strengths or you stick to your guns with a system and you try and make the best out of it with the personnel you've got. At the moment, we're not doing either. We're not sticking to our guns and sticking with that system. And players seem to be being asked to do different roles from week to week. So I think that is a real problem, Dan. But it's something that we'll touch on in a lot more detail, I'm sure. In the review show, we'll be looking at the game in greater detail and touching on all of those points. Tony Flowers says, if you're ever at a game when I am and I see you, I'll buy you a beer, man. Thank you very much, my friend. I'm at all the home games and some of the away ones. So we'll definitely catch up. Let me know next time you're down. Right, that brings us to the end of another stream. Don't forget you can subscribe, like, and share. That is really, really important. You can find the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, or Spotify too. And yeah, so until Sunday, where we'll be going back over the Aston Villa game. Take care of yourselves and enjoy your weekends. Ciao. Roaring, I'm out the door. The high life I've been waiting for.